What's up? What's happening? Welcome into Foxborough Rush. George Balekji here with my main man, Keagan Stiefel. Keegs with the Rose Bowl hat. What is that? Oregon and who? What year? 64?
Arizona State, 97.
Sun Devils
2
against
years
the Ducks.
before I was born.
Stop. You were born in 2000?
99.
Oh, my God.
Bad math for you right there. 97, 2 years, 2000.
I thought you said three.
Not a great
I thought you
start.
said three.
Nope.
I thought you said three. Look, man, if it's not yards per route run or air yards per attempt, the math doesn't compute in my mind. That's just how I roll. All right, Keegs?
Respect. You're an analytics guy. I've always said that about you.
He's Keagan Stiefel. I'm George Balekji. Welcome to Foxborough Rush. We got a great show for you guys today. Hey, Will Campbell inked his fully guaranteed rookie contract. We'll be talking offensive line, especially not zooming in necessarily on the left tackle spot, but the guard positions. Mike Onwenu dealing with a offseason injury to his hand, nursing that, not 100% participant, but we'll get into what the left guard, right guard spot looks like, and of course the offensive line. Then we'll also hear from the positional coaches for the New England Patriots, Thomas Brown, Todd Downing, what they have to say about the offense's progress, working with Josh McDaniels and more. And we got a mailbag later on in the show as well for you guys, and we'll be hearing a little bit from Ramondre Stevenson. Keegs, before we get into it though, I gotta say, I love the hat. One of the biggest regrets in my life. I covered the Rose Bowl in 2019. Wisconsin blew a 28-7 lead against Oregon, I remember, and they ended up losing it, right? Was it? Or was it 21? Right. No. 28-7 was the lead they had over Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, which they blew. Right. And then Oregon, with Justin Herbert, beat Jonathan Taylor and the Badgers. But day one, I saw a hat, and I was like, oh, it's a great hat. I'm going to get that later. And I kept saying, I'm going to get it later. I'm going to get it later. Merch runs out. And I didn't end up getting a good Rose Bowl hat. Whatever hat I end up getting, I just end up throwing out because it stunk. So
I'm a huge merch guy. Just bottom line, like anywhere I go, I want merch.
Yes.
I would, and I haven't been to the Rose Bowl yet. That's like bucket list #1 game I want to cover, in my career. I will spend upwards of $1,000 on Rose Bowl merch, and it'll just be my everyday wear. Like I'll always have Rose Bowl on me. There's just something about it, something about the aesthetic of Pasadena. You know what I mean? It's, dude, anything you buy out there, I assume is just phenomenal.
It is. And also the merch wasn't like that crazy. It was normal priced merch. So like you don't have to go blowing a rack on it, Keegs. Like don't worry. Hats are $40, shirts are $80, which is like expensive, but it's like Nike Rose Bowl. My advice whenever you go, if you're covering it, honestly, dude, I would just say go this next Rose Bowl. Just go. Just go as a fan, whether you're covering it or not. But if you are covering it, beginning of the second half, I always did this when I was at Lambeau Field. Beginning of the second half, walk out of the press box, take a break, don't be a complete hardo, walk down in the stands and watch like half a quarter over the mountains as the sun sets. It is one of the best scenes in all of sports. That's, again, my mentorship to you, Keagan. You know, I'm just always going to be that mentor for you.
We can't do a show together without me getting some sort of advice. I always appreciate it. It's never taken, with any disrespect. I always appreciate your advice.
You love the unsolicited advice. Hey, learn from me being a moron, which I have in the past, and I'm probably going to be at some point today too. All right, let's get into it, Keeg. So Will Campbell inked and agreed to terms 4 years, $43.6 million fully guaranteed, $28.3 signing bonus. Will Campbell agrees to the terms. Great sign for the Patriots. This seemed like a no-brainer. I mean, he wasn't going to dispute over millions. Guy all about the work. It's good to get your 4th overall pick, who is an offensive lineman, for the worst offensive line in the NFL. Inked, signed, everything locked in. And Keagan, when it comes to this, just getting them ready, all things ahead for the 2025 season.
Yeah, first thing I noticed, $28.3 million signing bonus. That was not an accident. I assume his agent was looking for 26, 27. They said, we'll give you 28.3.
You saying 28-3 comeback and
yeah,
joke?
Keep the joke alive forever. They'll never let it go.
Sure.
That makes no sense other than just for the memes. You know what I mean? 28.3. I doubt his agent was asking for that on the dot. So
right. If anything, you'd want 28.5. Like why would you settle point? The exact number 28.39 even. Give me 28.4.
Right. But they said, listen, we'll give it under the table. I'll slide you a couple thou. We really want this to look like 28.3. But honestly, this is one of those deals where, and you'll see it over the next few weeks, they have a couple of guys they still have to lock up. You're really just fighting over semantics at this point. Mm-hmm. Like the money is the money. It's how much you're getting at signing, how much is going to be, in the first half of the contract versus the back half. It's really good for these players if they can get a lot of money up front, to then when they're in the 4th and maybe even the 5th year option, but the 4th year of that deal, trying to get an extension done early because they're not having a ton of cash come in those last couple of years. So smart on the player to get as much up front as possible. We're going to see the same thing, I assume, with Travion Henderson whenever he signs his contract.
Yep.
They want to front load these deals, get the money out of the way, and then in the middle, that second, third, fourth year, when you're hoping to compete with these young players, that's when the money's really not even on the books, and you can go stack money in the middle tier of your roster and try to compete.
Yeah, got the cap room right now. Not much else to spend it on unless they need to go out and trade for a receiver because they got their number one receiver doing 2C and stuff. But if they don't, if they stick, spend the money now on these rookies, on this big rookie class. And as you mentioned, this is a team that's in a 3-4 year window too. So it makes sense. It's also, think about it, this is Drake Maye year 2. You go 3 years down the road, that's 5th-year option territory, that's extension territory. And as we've seen, the extension that some of these guys are signing, that's going to be Drake Maye, $200 million man, maybe more with the chunk of that guaranteed. And again, Drake Maye, if he pans out to be what I expect him to be, top 5 at the position at some point, that's going to be a Drake Maye. Total value, $70 million a year at some point. Like, we see what Brock Purdy got. We've seen what Joe Burrow has gotten. Josh Allen, like Drake Maye, that's a good stuff for him. All right, let's get into it. Some of the reports coming out of camp. The surprise at left guard, not Will Campbell, not the 4th overall pick, Tyrese Robinson. So Mike Reese was reporting one of the surprising developments at the Patriots' most recent practice, open to reporters, was seeing Tyrese Robinson at left guard, aligning next to Campbell, who has been a fixture at left tackle. That's definitely a surprise. Tyrese Robinson, undrafted in 2022, has been a practice squad player. Patriots claimed him off waivers last season. But, yes, a surprise to see him taking the starting reps with the offensive line. Look, this is not going to be a clear picture of what the offensive line is. What it is right now, voluntary OTAs, it's passing camp. Get 5 guys out there. Let the receivers and the D-backs work. Let the running backs work. Let Drake Maye pick up the system. I'm not overthinking what the offensive line looks like right now. Once the pads get on, and once training camp rolls around, Mike Onwenu's hand is good. Will Campbell is going. Cole Strange feels like he's 100%, or Leighton Robinson is fighting for that starting spot at left guard. That's when it matters. I'm not overthinking Tyrese Robinson. No disrespect to him, but a practice squad guy, his first 3 years in the league, I don't expect him to have a breakout season in 2025 all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, with the position this wide open, I think left guard, in terms of the offense, is the most wide open position in terms of who's going to start. Mm-hmm. You're going to try everybody out there, at least early. We saw, even though media weren't allowed at the early practices, they had pictures posted to Patriots.com. Wes Schweitzer was the left guard, and then we saw Cole Strange there. Now we've seen Tyrese Robinson. Leighton Robinson's going to get his opportunity as well. So everybody's going to get a chance. They really want to see who should be getting these early reps during training camp, who's ready for that, who fits beside Will Campbell, and whether it's Garrett Bradbury or Jared Wilson, whoever the center is. It's about the collective. It's about the unit. We heard all year, we want the best 5, the best 5, the best 5.
Yeah.
The best 5 got you the worst offensive line in football because they didn't work well together. Guys were getting hurt left and right. You were just sliding whoever you thought your best offensive lineman was into whatever position was available, and it was a disaster. So they're going to take control of every aspect of this offensive line, who's playing where, why they're playing there, when they're playing there. It's early, it's OTAs, everybody's going to get a shot. Once training camp rolls around, if Tyrese is out there and he's your number 1 left guard, then we can have a conversation about it because that's when it's going to matter.
Exactly.
I don't think we're going to.
I wouldn't be shocked if at some point we see Jared Wilson taking reps at left guard or right guard. I think he's going to challenge for that center spot, but he's athletic enough that he could play either guard position. And that's where I look at it. Let's hear from Mike Onwenu here, Keegan. This is him talking about new teammates in Will Campbell, Morgan Moses, Garrett Bradbury. Long bite from Onwenu, but good insight. Here he is from training camp talking about the new offensive lineman in the room with him.
Yeah, I feel good about it. We got a really great room full of potential. A lot of guys, everybody can play pretty much. So I'm happy about it.
What are your first impressions of Will Campbell?
They're good. I think for my first impression was pretty much when I seen him set, like he just got smooth feet, moves well through air. So he's pretty in control of his body and his movements.
What's it like playing with Morgan so far, and how on the right side?
Yeah, it's been dope. We've both played a little bit in our career, so I mean it's nice just talking and just seeing viewpoints on how we view things or how we see certain defensive looks or personnels.
He's known for his leadership. Have you noticed that?
Yes. Morgan has been really good in the room and just really sharing his knowledge just of play experience, and then just being a vet and being an older guy and putting us onto things.
Mike, how about playing next to Garrett?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. Likewise, Garrett is really knowledgeable. He's played center for a long time. I watched him when he was at Minnesota, so I mean, like he's a good center. I'm getting back to an offense that I'm familiar with, so we've all been collectively sharing knowledge and information, and just make sure we're on the same page and knowing what we're all talking about.
Of course, Mike Onwenu excited to get back to an offense he's familiar with. His rookie season and then year 2 in the league. Josh McDaniels was the OC for him. Of course, rookie season was the Cam Newton experiment with that offense, adapting it around a quarterback that was injured and couldn't complete a slant accurately. Then 2021 was run heavy and Mac Jones. Dude, he was washed in 2020. Hey, good for him. They won 9 games that season, or was it 8? They won 8.
First 4 weeks, 2020, Cam Newton is one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life. He was awesome.
I'll never forget the
killed
Seahawks
him.
game. A buddy of mine's like, they're going to win the Super Bowl. They do this every year. I'm like, dude, it's Cam. He's washed.
He was prime Cam Newton for a month. He got COVID, and then he forgot how to throw a football. It's some of the craziest stuff I've ever seen in my life. It was unbelievable.
But the focus being on Onwenu, Keegan, what are you looking forward to? For a guy like him that says, hey, it's the offense I'm familiar with, I think that's big. We know how serious this offensive line room is now. You have Doug Marrone leading it. He has 2 assistants. It's resources in this. And again, as just a rookie, a guy like Onwenu, who was a day 3 pick, had a phenomenal rookie season and a really good sophomore season as well. When it came to run blocking and pass blocking, it was some of his best football, you can argue.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Getting him back in this system, I think, is huge. He's eaten off those first 2 years. 2 years after that, he gets the extension, and he's been here now for, I think it's going on year 6 for him. It really all goes back to those first 2 seasons. He did not have a good third season. Nope. Then they moved him to right tackle, and he really struggled at right tackle. He was good as a fill-in. He was not good there full-time, especially inside all these new systems. 4 systems in 5 years is ridiculous in the first place. But getting him back to the point where he was one of the best young guards in the NFL, and everybody thought he was going to be a long-term starter there, and then you really kind of messed it up. I think getting him back, like I said, to that point where he's not only going to be comfortable, but he fits the system a little bit better than these other ones that they've run, and he's alongside a right tackle who has experience in a bunch of different roles, under a bunch of different head coaches and offensive coordinators. His center is going to be maybe a little bit more athletic. It's going to help make up for the fact that he isn't the best athlete. He's out there because he's a mauler. He's a big dude. He takes up space. He's got good feet, but the lateral quickness isn't really there. So getting a center beside him who is athletic and can make up for some of that stuff is going to be huge. I think they put him in a great spot to make the money that they paid him, which $20 million a year for Mike Onwenu was a lot of money, but make that money worth what they're paying him.
What was Elliott Wolf saying after they signed him? Well, we signed the best offensive tackle in this free agency class. Yes, Elliott Wolf. You signed the best offensive tackle, and he's playing right guard for you because he is a guard. But whatever, man. The market's a market. I'm not going to knock on Onwenu for getting the bag. You talk about his rookie sophomore season, too. Those 2 years, we saw him play a significant amount of snaps at left guard, and right tackle. Year 3 was finally just play right guard. And again, as we evaluate these guys going into this season, I don't want to underwrite it enough. I want to make sure everyone understands the severity of what the offense was the last 3 years. This past season, it was a new system with AVP, but just the resources and the players weren't good. Season before that, Bill O'Brien was brought in because Robert Kraft wanted him to come in, and Bill Belichick, being the spiteful, petty guy he is, didn't give Bill O'Brien his choice of who the staff is outside of an assistant tight ends coach. And the year before that, Bill Belichick got lazy and stubborn and insecure, didn't want to hire anyone outside of his circle, so he hired a florist and a custodian to run his offense in Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. No disrespect to either of those career paths, but if you're a florist or a custodian, you wouldn't run an offense. No, custodian's great work, man. I mean,
I thought you were going to say no disrespect to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, and I said you can't say that with a straight face. You absolutely want to disrespect them and the job they did. Yeah.
No, exactly. I love florists, love custodians. One of my best friend's dad is a custodian, retired now, but he helped a lot in the school system in Jersey, and he's an awesome human, and he does a lot. It's it's one of the unheralded heroes, unspoken heroes of
You're
this
talking
world.
to the son and grandson of a custodian. Family business. I broke the mold, but it's it got us where we are today. So definitely no disrespect.
See, there we go. All disrespect to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, by the way. I want to make sure my intent is purposeful. Now let's hear from Cole Strange. This is big for him, being back on the field, ignoring the outside noise. Here's Cole Strange.
I feel like it was just good to get back into some sort of rhythm of playing football, because what was it, December 23, pretty much to like November, December of 24, no football for me, really, you know what I mean? So it's like, y'all understand whenever you hadn't done something for a year, you just get rusty. So just being able to get back out there, get some practice reps, playing the game, see that speed, I think it was good to just sort of like, shock me back into it, and then being able to be healthy for OTAs as long as I can. Yeah.
You have a public job that attracts a lot of attention, and having been a first-round pick, that means there's going to be even greater attention on you. Do you look at the way the arc of your career has gone so far and say this, and put any pressure on yourself? Because the outside opinion is, well, Cole Strange hasn't played like a first-round pick. I'm just being frank about it.
I would say the truth is, just like I was just saying, all I can really do is control what I can control. Pray to God I don't have any more injuries. And, as long as that takes care of itself, I'll handle what I can handle. I'm not really worried about anybody's opinion.
Love him knocking on wood because he needs to. This is a guy that is about to hit a significant age. He was an older rookie coming in. I believe he's going to be 27 years old this season. Yes, he will. 13 games played the last 2 seasons. And, of course, he suffered an injury last year in training camp that ended up or no, 2 training camps ago, excuse me, but that ended up wrecking his end of the season and the beginning of the following season. If he's healthy, like the underrated most important position on this offensive line, it's left tackle, but it's left guard. It's who you're lining up to next to a rookie undersized left tackle. That left guard position is significant. And Cole Strange, when he was playing center, he looked angry, he looked athletic, he looked good, but this is a guy that just needs to be healthy. You need 17 games out of Cole Strange.
Yeah, the entire thing about Cole Strange coming into the NFL was the fact that he was maybe a little bit undersized, but his anchor and his athleticism, like he could mirror anybody on the inside. You loved him at left guard, you liked him at center. If you lose that, especially with a couple of knee injuries under your belt, that the player isn't what anybody thought he was going to be. So that's the nerve-wracking part, I think, for the Patriots. But at this point, where he's at, he's not going to be getting an extension. They're just going to give him an opportunity to show that he's able to be your left guard. He's able to sit there and, be competent at the very least. You're not looking for a superstar. You're just looking for somebody who's competent and who can hold things down in between what's going to be a rookie left tackle who's undersized, like you said, and also either a rookie center or a center who wasn't good enough to stay on his own team and he got cut this year. Yeah. So that's the big part about left guard. I think for him staying healthy, if he can do that, that's great, but you also have to take those 2 things into account as well, because there's going to be a lot of pressure on whoever wins that job, whether it's him, whether it's Layden Robinson, or even Tyrese Robinson, like we were talking about earlier.
With all the talks we have, I think the wide receiving room gets a lot of attention of who makes a cut, who doesn't. Do you think Cole Strange is a guy we could see his roster spot? Is he a bubble guy that he could either get cut or make the team? Would you be shocked if he gets cut?
No, I think that's the perfect way of describing it, bubble guy. Yeah. Jared Wilson and Garrett Bradbury are going to make this roster. Yep. Those are your 2 centers. You need depth at that position. You've had injuries there, obviously with David Andrews, 2 of the last 4 years. So you want 2 guys there that can give you that depth. But really the other positions as backup offensive linemen, it's versatility you're looking for. So Wes Schweitzer, people don't want to talk about it. He can play all 5 positions. And Jack Conley, an undrafted free agent, 6'7", 330 pounds. He can play all 5 positions. So if Cole Strange wants to find his way onto this roster, it's going to have to be as your starting left guard, or he's going to have to show crazy versatility that we haven't seen in the past. So I would actually lean more toward him not making this team versus him making this team. But, the pedigree's there. And if the injury history, he can overcome that and he can show that there's no worry about that knee and it hasn't taken away from his athletic ability, he has a chance of making this team for sure.
I would love to see the Bill Belichick spin zone if Cole Strange gets cut, and people asking him about trading back, taking him when he had a 4th round grade. He took him in the 1st round. The Belichick spin zone on like a Manning cast or like whatever podcast he's hopping on next. And then also the Jordan Hudson attempt of image recovery when actually she's doing more damage than she's doing good. I would have so much popcorn ready for all of that if Cole Strange was not to make the team.
I will say, and this is maybe me patting myself on the back a little bit, but huge Cole Strange fan coming into the draft 4 years ago. There's an article that I wrote for an old outlet that I used to write for that I can find the screenshots. I said, this is the kind of guy that Bill Belichick falls in love with and drafts way too early.
Wow.
And he did it, right? Like that. So for me, and playing devil's advocate, I can see why you would love Cole Strange. I completely get the profile of the player. Is he that player anymore? That's the question he needs to answer. And it's really not up to him. It's up to his body.
And it's also the upside as well. That's a guy inside the building, like one Patriot place. It's nothing against him personally. It's the NFL. It's your body. And he's not seen as a reliable player physically. It's not his work ethic. It's not his commitment to the game. It's his reliability as a player. So even if that's someone that they can break camp with, say as a starting left guard, there will be some, eeriness as they go into the season of, okay, Cole Strange is starting left guard, but how many games will we get out of him? And that matters in roster construction and what they see in the value of some guys. And to your point, Keegan, I think the best thing you pointed out is his athleticism is what stands out. But these injuries have piled up. They're lower body injuries. And if the athleticism isn't there, the size isn't there, and the versatility isn't there, foundational year for the Patriots, all of that matters. We'll take a quick break on Foxborough Rush. When we're back, we'll hear from some position coaches talking about Drake Maye, Josh McDaniels, Ashton Grant. Also in the break, I'm going to do some Google searches, find Keegan's old article as well. We'll be right back on Foxborough Rush. Welcome back to Foxborough Rush. George Balekji, Keagan Stiefel. Verdict: I think the Patriots have their eyes on someone specific in this draft. Everything I've heard and read from people in the know leads me to believe it's Strange. Yes. 2022, pop-ups ruined it, but that's Keagan Stiefel's article from 2022 on why the Patriots, here we go, 2022 Patriots draft profile. Cole Strange could help bring some added versatility to New England's offensive line. Give yourself a pat on the back, my friend. Victory lap, victory lap. All right, let's get into it, talking some storylines from OTAs.
The only reason I come on this show is to do victory lap, so I'm glad I was able to get that one in.
Take your dubs all the time. Have your flowers. So what's been fun following these OTAs and reporting on them and covering them is Drake Maye throwing so many interceptions. Drake Maye regressing. I am being sarcastic here. If you guys are watching, you can see my eyes roll as I speak. If you're listening, just know I am a person that would put my life savings into Drake Maye becoming a franchise quarterback if I had a life savings. I want to hear from Josh McDaniels to start this. Here's Josh McDaniels on Drake Maye learning from mistakes he makes at OTAs.
I mean, he's doing really well. He's very smart, works really hard. I think the quarterback room in general is really, really good in terms of putting the time and effort in at this point in time in the year. And like I said, we either make a good play or we learn from the result. And so sometimes as a coach, and nobody wants to hear this, but sometimes as a coach, the negative results can actually be your best teachers because you have a play where something didn't necessarily go your way or the right way, and then you learn from it. And then the biggest key for us as we go forward is when we learn from a mistake is can we go out there the next day and not repeat the same error. And so I think he's doing a really good job of digesting the information, processing the corrections when there is a correction to be made, and then go out there with a great attitude and mindset the next day.
Has he been repeating any errors so far? Are there more learning?
Not many. Yeah, he does generally he does a really good job of listening to it, and then when you go out there the next time, and you see the same kind of look or the same problem that the defense presents to you that was presented previously, generally speaking, he's a quick study on that, and that's a good thing for a young player.
So Josh McDaniels commending the bounce back from Drake Maye. And the fact that I think important is that he can take an information and he applies it to the field right away. I mean, that's what you want in a guy that has to learn a very complex system. I'm interested what we'll see from the system. We'll get into that more, especially hearing from Thomas Brown, who's a tight ends coach and passing game coordinator. I'm excited to see what we actually get from this system when the season kicks off. But what's important right now is Drake Maye putting his hands on this playbook, grasping it, and actually applying it to the field. And from one of the greatest offensive minds in all of football, he's liking what he sees from the year two quarterback. And I put more stock into that than him throwing 4 interceptions in practice.
Yeah, I mean, I had a coach couple years ago, we were talking about Mac Jones and, transitioning into a new system away from Josh McDaniels' system. And the way he described it to me was, it's like your whole life, you go play putt-putt and you go to the driving range, and then you have to go play a real round of golf. That's not the entire thing, right? So, how to do the basics. You know how to putt the ball. You know how to drive, hopefully. Some of us never figure it out. But you know how to do that stuff. But then you have to chip it onto the green, and no one's ever taught you how to do it. And it's a completely different swing. And the elements, are changing the way the ball is going to – it's all this different stuff that you have to take into account. So you can't just expect somebody to walk in and be like, got it, no problem. Right up onto the green, up and in, no problem. That's just not how the NFL works. It's the same thing with what Drake Maye is doing this summer. He's learning an entire new system. So does he have the basics down? Does he have some, a little bit of a rapport with some of these receivers? Absolutely. Does he know the system? Does he know the concepts? Does he know, the way Josh McDaniels wants him to run certain things? If you don't have this option, your check down is going to be your number one instead of whatever else might be inside the concept. It's all these different things that he needs to learn. So on day one, when he throws a few interceptions because Alex Van Pelt taught it this way, and now I'm doing it in a different system and it's not working, those are the learning things. Those are what's going to help him get better. Obviously, he's making adjustments. I bet you by training camp, we're not going to see any 5 interception days. That's just the way this stuff works. It's sports, guys. It takes a minute to get used to what you're doing.
It's like when the reports came out of Drake Maye throwing 4 interceptions, it's a LeBron meme. Like, ooh, like people want to make it sound like the sky is falling. And there are guys out there that, they famously say they have a show to do today. So they'll make nothing out of something out of nothing, excuse me. But when that report came out, and here's a quick victory lap for me, I said, look, we don't know the context of the drills, let alone what he's told on that play. We don't know what the down and distance is, what the situation is if it's a game-type situation, timeouts, how far they are from scoring, what the score is, if they need a touchdown or a field goal, and also what the position coach is saying of, I don't want you taking your first or second read. I want you to take the third read here. I say all that. Let's throw it here now. Here's Thomas Brown, passing game coordinator, tight ends coach, talking about Drake Maye. Oh, no, excuse me. Sorry. This is Ashton Grant, the quarterback's coach, talking about Drake Maye taking risks in practice right now.
I think he's definitely embraced it, and this is the time of year, again, with, no repercussions to the mistakes, for us to kind of figure out what we do very well, what we might need to work on a little bit, try to fit in throws that we might not necessarily do on a Sunday. So we're kind of trying to push ourselves to the limit just to see what we can and can't do.
That's it right there. Let's take risks. Let's see what we can do, what we can't do. This is the time of year to do it. Because you throw 4 interceptions in training camp, and guess what? Doesn't matter. It's failure, and it's learning from it. And if there was panic actually coming out, you'd hear from the coaches. They wouldn't be so open about, hey, this is the time of year when we take risks. They wouldn't be willing to say that if they know what Drake Maye is doing is okay. And that's the thing, especially this time of year. It could be one-on-ones. It could be 11-on-11 drills, whatever. We will overanalyze plays, snaps, performance by the players. At the end of the day, we don't know the context of what they're doing on the field. 4 interceptions by Drake Maye. At the end of May, the month of May, I'm okay with 10 times out of 10 because this is the time to do it. And you heard it right there from his quarterback's coach.
Yeah, I mean, he's working with these guys, a lot of them, for the first time. Kyle Williams, Stephon Diggs isn't out there in team drills, but he's doing individual stuff. Mm-hmm. He needs to learn what he can trust them with versus what he can't. So if there is a 50-50 ball and he wants to throw it up to the rookie and see what happens, but it's Christian Gonzalez in coverage, yeah, it's going to get intercepted. Now I'm going to throw it up in the same situation, but it's Marcellus Dial in coverage. Okay, now it wasn't an interception. He got his hands on it. I gave him a chance. Mm-hmm. This is the stuff they're looking for. This is what, as a quarterback, you need to know every situation, every route, every concept that a wide receiver runs, how he's going to do it, and what you can trust him with and versus what you can't.
Yep.
So these early days in the spring, this is where he learns, okay, this is a yes, this is a no, this is a no, this is a no. 1 out of 4 of these options I have open once we get to team drills in the fall. So overreacting to any of this stuff, it's the same stuff with, the rookie running back, the undrafted free agent, looks like the fastest guy out on the field. Yeah, but when he has to run between the tackles and he gets arm tackled after 2 yards because he doesn't have any contact balance, that's when you actually see the football part of it come together, not the 7-on-7 or the shorts and helmets part of it come together.
passing camp, like when there's actually, you can run the ball and you can set up plays, and there's a method to what you're doing in the first quarter, setting up something in the fourth quarter, and you put the pads on. Yeah, all of that. And it is,
they're
again,
essentially playing flag football right now.
Yeah, it's passing camp for a reason. It's the most fun part of football because you're not getting hit and you're just throwing the ball all the time.
Right.
But it's essential to learning in some capacity. Oh yeah, they have to love it. When the pads come on, which it will be, as mandatory minicamp is just around the corner, that's when the stuff will matter. And Ashton Grant was talking with the media as well. I think it was important. He was asked about, hey, you're with AVP. Drake, love that system. He spoke about it. What is the link there? What have you learned? You know, what are you bringing out? And for him, what the big part is with his experience in his system, he is learning Josh McDaniel's system at the same time. There's a difference in language and lingo and verbs, whatever you want to call it. Again, what I think is important, you hear a lot from Josh McDaniels being very open, asking for his assistant positional coaches' opinions and stuff. Everyone's learning the system at the same time. Josh McDaniels is learning how to coach this to Drake Maye. The assistants are learning Josh McDaniels' system, and Drake Maye is learning the system as well. But everyone's coming together. It's true collaboration. We know last year there was all the talk about collaboration with Gerard Mayo, Jonathan Kraft, Robin Hammer, Glazer, and how excited they were about this. This is actual football collaboration at its best.
Yeah, I think the big thing that we learned last year with Drake Maye coming into the NFL was Alex Van Pelt was so focused on, we need to fix this kid's footwork. It's not good. He's a really great athlete. He's got a great arm, but his footwork sucks. And all the work that they put into it last year, and I think we saw a significant change from early training camp versus the end of the season. You don't want that to change when you're moving into a different system, because when you're learning something new, you're going to fall back on what feels comfortable. And what feels comfortable might be that sloppy footwork. So bringing a guy in who knows how to teach it the same way Alex Van Pelt did, knows how to apply it the same way, whether it's, in that system versus McDaniel's system, is a huge help to Drake Maye, because he's going to have the stuff that he already learned being, continuously being instilled into him, while he's also taking on this new challenge of learning a new system.
Exactly. And I think that's what's important, is the carryover. In a way, Ashton Grant was hired from the Browns, but just being in the same room as a Kevin Stefanski, knowing an Alex Van Pelt, and now being around a Drake Maye and a Josh McDaniels, it's big on the brains that he's learned from, and you can pour it into Drake Maye. All right, let's talk a little Jahlani Tavai. Sounds like he avoided serious injury. Adam Schefter reporting Jahlani Tavai went down in OTAs. Very fortunate that it is not a serious injury. The news is it's fortunate that Tavai could hardly put any pressure on his leg as he was walking off the field. He was helped off by his teammates. But it's just a calf injury during OTAs, and he'll be sidelined, expected to be sidelined until training camp. This is good news for the depth of this defense. I don't know how big of a role Jahlani Tavai is going to have, Keegan, but what stands out to me about Jahlani Tavai, and again, this is a bubble guy by all means, but if he can make an impact on the edge as a depth piece pass rusher, because he was a guy that would line up at middle linebacker and line up on the edges for run defense and rushing the passer. If he can just add depth and be that third, fourth line edge rusher for this Patriots defense, that to me gets him a roster spot. So it's big he avoided serious injury. That's also why Jahlani Tavai stuck around and Juwan Bentley is no longer on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think the one thing he has versus the other linebackers, off-ball linebackers primarily on this team, is his versatility. The fact that he can move up and play on the line. He was one of their best guys at setting the edge last year. Mm-hmm. They just lost so much depth at linebacker, they couldn't play him on the edge. So you were working with Anthony Jennings, who was great against the run but struggled against the pass, or Dietrich Wise, who's a decent pass rusher, decent against the run, but the continuous mistakes that he would make throughout his tenure of the Patriots, it would make you want to rip your hair out. So you're almost taking away his value last year based off of the injury. So sliding him back into a less important role but a more versatile role, I think would have been great for him. I wonder if this changes anything. If they're able to find that Jack Gibbons or Christian Ellis can play up on the line a little bit more, does that change how they feel about Jahlani Tavai? I don't know, because Mike Reese from ESPN, reported that he was primarily playing alongside Robert Spillane. He was the number 2 off-ball linebacker. And then they were kind of cycling in those 2 athletic guys in Gibbons and Ellis behind them. So I think they view him a little bit differently than me and you have talked about him in the past. And obviously Patriots fans are not the fondest of Jahlani Tavai after what he said last year and really his play over the last 2 years since Bill Belichick, or last year since Bill Belichick left, was not up to the standard that everybody had for him. But if he's able to still, serve in that versatile number 3 linebacker role, he absolutely has a spot on his team. But if this thing carries over into camp and they just find another guy who can do what he did, you can get cheaper, you can get younger, and just cut him. And that's life in the NFL, right? You lose your job to an injury, and it sucks, but these are the kind of things we see every year. Raekwon McMillan was here for years, and he would get hurt, and they would just sign him for one more year and see, hey, maybe he's going to be the guy we thought he was. Yep. And the 1 year he didn't get hurt, he ended up losing his job because they saw, okay, this is not who we thought he was going to be, and they moved on from him.
Yeah, and that's Jahlani Tavai, too, in a system that worked for nobody last season. I mean, the defense was terrible by all accounts.
Fair.
Pass rush, run defense. But it's right. He got an extension, didn't live up to it. Bill Belichick leaves. This defense falls apart. And you point to it, too, all the injuries they've had. This is a guy that I do expect to have an impact on this defense. They were the ones that, once Terrell Williams was brought in, they're going to get cut, like a Juwan Bentley. But they're the guys that can stick if they're allowed to play in their position. Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar, a guy like a Jahlani Tavai, who makes sense to have an impact. And yes, he's infamously tied to this fan base for what he basically said of, you guys can't do what we do, so don't comment on it, don't boo us, don't talk. That was also a guy in the middle of a very, very frustrating season. There is part where, if that's the one time he's messed up, I give grace in a way of, you get your butt kicked all week, you're getting your butt kicked every Sunday, and then you're hearing it from the fans, you're going to be frustrated. Should he be smarter? Should he know what not to say? 1,000%. But if he produces and just has an impact, it's not like he's not going to be back to, man, I love Jahlani Tavai. We're not going to see 48 jerseys everywhere. But this is a guy that made that one misstep talking in the media. I would take that over the guy that's making missteps consistently off the field or anything like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I believe that's what the kids call a crash out.
Yeah,
sometimes you just hit a point and you're like, you know what, F it. I'm going to go nuclear on everybody who's, angering me. I'll say it that way, maybe a little bit nicer. So I get it. Sometimes you just want to scream at the people who are upsetting you. It makes sense.
I was on the brink on one of those last night, and the best thing I did is got up, left, went home, drank water, went to sleep. Feel great today. Journaled a little. That's big for the mental health, man. It's Mental Health Month. Guys, journaling, highly recommend it. Hey, we'll take another break here on Foxborough Rush. That's some more advice for you, Keegan, from your mentor. When we're back, we'll be hearing from Thomas Brown, Todd Downing, key guys in this passing game for the Patriots offense on the coaching staff, what they have to say about the players and the system with Josh McDaniels. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back on Foxborough Rush. All right, so let's hear from Thomas Brown, Todd Downing. I want to start with this one, Keegan. Here was Thomas Brown on how he adapts, how he teaches his offense to different players, different individuals.
I mean, it's my job, again, to figure out how to deliver information to make it the most effective. Like, what I know is really irrelevant compared to what the players know, because I'm not playing, they're playing. So whatever it takes, whether it be more getting up and moving around and having more walkthroughs from an individual roof standpoint, where the board and drawing things up versus getting different teaching examples, whatever it takes, I'm always able to adapt and adjust to whatever players I have in the room.
That's important. I mean, look, he's experienced. Was a guy that was in a play calling role with the Bears into an interim head coach, had play calling duties, offensive coordinator duties when he was with the Panthers, but that was Frank Reich getting fired, David Tepper, just absolutely toxic what was going on in Carolina. But just to hear the understanding of a guy that's like, look, every player's different. This is a new system for me and for them. Different people, different ways I'm going to teach them. And you know what? May work for one guy, won't work for the next, but I'm not going to do it's my way or the highway. Hey, whatever works for them to learn the offense, that's what works for me.
Yeah, as an assistant coach, his job is to be kind of the liaison between the hard-ass head coach and the players. And not saying that's who Mike Vrabel is, but that's just the role. You know what you sign up for when you're in that job. So for him to kind of acknowledge, like, the players know more than I do. My job is just to get them to fit what they know and what they're good at into the system that we're trying to run. So it's always great when you hear that from a head coach, because you have heard, or from an assistant coach, because you have heard guys in the past. Joe Judge was one of them. When he was the wide receivers coach, I can remember being out at practices and hearing him scream at Jacoby Myers and N'Keal Harry, who were rookies, who had no idea how to pick up this system, because no rookie wide receiver ever has. If we're all being honest, they have a hard time picking up this system. I remember hearing him scream, it's not that hard. You got to pick it up. And it worked for one of them because Jacoby Myers picked everything up. And by year 2, he was their best wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And it really didn't work for the other, which just happened to be your first-round pick, and N'Keal Harry, who crumbled and was out of New England before the start of his third year, I believe. So having a guy who's able to recognize, like, I need to adapt what I'm doing to the players is great. You won't have any of these, toxic relationships between a player and a coach when that guy's able to kind of mold himself into what the coaches above him and the players beneath him need.
Yeah, it's one of those, there's a humility of like, look, my job is to coach a guy. It's not to be right. It's to make sure he succeeds. It's bigger than him. Now, here was Thomas Brown. Here's an important one. Asked about the importance of the fullback to the run game.
Those guys are hard to find, man. I think it's kind of a last of a dying breed. A different mentality when it comes to how guys are built and wired to be physical, to kind of stick your face in the fan. But I think as far as being able to force guys' hands from a personnel standpoint, matchup-wise, this is a matchup-based league. So where they be them trying to match nickel to 11, when you're at 21, you can run some versatile things from an offensive standpoint. You can force guys' hands to, where they're going to play base and play man-to-man coverage, play in sub and play zone defense, kind of be able to give yourself a chance to have the chalk rights if you need.
Brock Lampy season loading. He points out 21 personnel. We know Josh McDaniels always has a fullback on his roster, and that's Thomas Brown, who is a tight ends coach, asked about a fullback, and he goes, man, those guys are hard to come around this day and age, but they're important to the roster. And just pointing out the simple of how you can create mismatches even when you have multiple guys in the backfield, and pointing out the 21 personnel.
Yeah, I mean, hearing a coach talk about a fullback like that, be still my beating heart. I love it because from what we've seen in this system, it's so crucial to just have that guy. You might not be using him every week. Like Jakob Johnson wasn't out there getting 40 snaps a game for 17 games a week. But we talked about it earlier. That Seattle game, when they scored 4 touchdowns on the goal line, it really helped having a 260-pound fullback in there in front of your 260-pound quarterback, beside your 230-pound running back. Like, these guys are valuable. And even if you're using them, let's say 10 snaps a game for 12 games a year, that roster spot's going to end up being worth it in the long run because of the value they bring when they are on the field, especially guys like Brock Lamp, who we haven't talked about, but I've talked about in the past. Special teamer. If you can find a special teamer who can just play in a bit role on offense, the way you have that in Brendan Schooler, who last year out of nowhere became their best pass rusher for like 3 weeks because he was spying on these scrambling quarterbacks. That's huge value.
If it works.
It's something that not every team is willing to, some teams will say waste a roster spot, but not every team is willing to spend a roster spot on that. And if the Patriots are, I think it's going to pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even want to look it up, but like you go back to the 2022 roster, the amount of special teamers solely that Bill Belichick on the roster was malpractice for how many voids they had throughout it. Now, here is Todd Downing talking about the young wide receivers learning this system.
The young group, their work ethic has been great, and it's been fun to watch them put in the extra time. And they'll text me questions at night, or text Riley Larkin, who's helping out with us, a question, or ask for a drawing or an example, whatever. And it's been neat to see them really sink their teeth into it and tack the apps to it. So I hope that continues, and it'll pay dividends as we finish up here in the offseason and trap.
Important name he dropped in that one is Riley Larkin, that they're texting him. That's a guy that helps them learn the system. But again, Riley Larkin came over from Ohio State, was learning from Chip Kelly and what Chip Kelly did with Will Howard. Ashton Grant, the quarterback's coach, came from Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski, Alex Van Pelt, Chad O'Shea, guys that are good coaches at their positions and what they do. It's not just the positional coaches, the Todd Downings, the Ashton Grants, the Thomas Browns. It's, again, how deep this staff is, and you notice how it's a melting pot of different fundamentals, different philosophies, different systems. And these guys, it sounds like, are given actual responsibility, which is really important for this young roster to learn these systems.
Yeah, and, Todd Downing, obviously receivers coach, so he was talking specifically about the receivers, but if a Riley Larkin, who has a experience in a relationship with Travion Henderson going back to Ohio State, Henderson's going to be running as many routes as he is going to get carries this year. So having him be able to ask those questions and cross-department synergy, they talk about it in the corporate world, right? Me and you working together. I'm editorial, you're video and audio. You're working with social media people, all that stuff. You need that on an NFL team as well. You need guys who can relate what the receivers and the tight ends are doing, what the running backs and the receivers are doing, what the safeties and the linebackers are doing. That stuff's really important. So having just the added guys on the staff. Vinny DePalma, who's out there holding bags and getting beat up for the linebackers.
Yep.
But he can take that same stuff in and help the safeties when they move down, when you're running a nickel defense, whatever it might be. So really, really important to have as many bodies as possible, because you never know when somebody's going to pick something up from one practice or one game and be able to translate it onto another later in the season to help you, maybe win an extra rep than you might have if you didn't have that.
Yeah, Vinny DePalma, Wayne, New Jersey, shout out to him. Here's Todd Downing on learning from Josh McDaniels.
Pretty humbling and awesome that Josh would be interested in what concepts that Thomas or Tony or myself would want to bring to the table. He's had a successful system, and he has no reason other than trusting us and believing in us to want to hear what we have to say. And so that's been quite an honor to do that collectively. In terms of learning his system, I'm sure all along the way there are going to be things that I need clarification on, or something that I haven't done that way before. And he's got about a 20-year catalog of clips he can show me to do it. So those are helpful when I need to get something cleaned up.
Again, it's just the open communication, collaboration that I love. It's not egos. It's not guys saying, walling off their assistants and just trying to be a hard ass. It's Josh McDaniels wanting to run a successful offense. It's Todd Downing, who was an offensive coordinator, who was a play caller, who was a passing game coordinator, not trying to be bigger than what he is and undermine McDaniels in any way. It's them coming together and running a successful offense. It sounds so weird for me to point that out in a way so basic, but this is the standard. And how bad the offense has been for the Patriots the last 3 years, it's refreshing to hear things like this, Keegan.
I'll say this, going back to Josh McDaniels' last stint in New England, coming up on the end of it, I was one of the people who was saying it's time to move on. You better hope this guy takes a head coaching job, because the system isn't working for the players, for what Bill Belichick wants. And I think a lot of that just came down to the fact that we had seen it for so long. And when Tom Brady wasn't running it, it looked, not right. It looked like it wasn't working anymore. And that's user error on our part from seeing it that way, because you hear Todd Downing, who's been a coordinator, he's called plays in this league, talk about Josh McDaniels the way he did. I used to, begrudgingly call him Boy Wonder, Josh McDaniels, because I was he looks like a 12-year-old. He runs the same 5 plays over and over again. If I see another running back screen, I'm going to throw my TV out the window. But he's clearly revered, and his system clearly works, because he's won 6 Super Bowls running it. So taking a step back from where we were at the end of his last tenure to where we are now at the beginning of his next one, you really see the value in having a guy who is revered by the coaches around him, who's trusted by the head coach, and who a lot of these players who are going to be playing in the system either weren't alive when he started running it, or they grew up watching it and they grew up watching Tom Brady run it. So it's something that if they can take that and they do it the right way, I think they can find a lot of success. The running back screens are going to get old. I promise you, we're all going to be like, Henderson's got 9 catches today for 36 yards. What are we talking about?
The 1st and 10 toss, is going to get old.
Right. When they're running up the gut every play, every first down, like you said, it gets old. But taking a step back and understanding kind of how the people running the system appreciate it and respect it, it says something for sure. Yeah,
and this is something too. I'm interested what it's going to look like, because I don't think it's going to be the same old Josh McDaniels system. He was away for the game for a year. He wasn't fishing in Nantucket. He was out there learning college playbooks and different styles of systems. We'll take another break. When we're back, we'll get to the mailbag right here on Foxborough Rush. We're back here on Foxborough Rush. Let's get to the mailbag, Keegan. So T-Woods _ on YouTube commenting, Josh Allen wasn't Josh Allen until Stephon Diggs went to Buffalo. Josh Allen wasn't Josh Allen until Brian Daboll got to year 3 of teaching Josh Allen his system. Stephon Diggs is a man beater. He was still an elite receiver at that point. He was really good. I give more credit to Brian Daboll and what he did for Josh Allen than for Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen.
Cosign.
Nice.
That's it. Cosign. Correct.
Look what he did with Khalil Shakur being his #1 receiver this past season.
Right. He also grew into the fact that, he played at Wyoming. It was going to take time to get used to the NFL level and the difference in the competition. Josh Allen was always going to be a star, it was going to take a while. I think the Stephon Diggs aspect to that was more of a coincidence than anything.
Yeah. Does he help? Does it help having an elite receiver? Yes. Stephon Diggs right now also is not the Stephon Diggs that got to Buffalo too. Here's Lord M91 on the Patriots trading for Kyle Pitts. I'd be over the moon if the Pats got Pitts for a third, because God knows we need all the help you can get on that side of the ball. The Patriots need all the help they can get on the outside. On the outside being playmakers, especially guys as big as him. Don't use him as a tight end. Yeah, I'd be over the moon if they traded third for Kyle Pitts as well.
Couldn't be less of a fit for the offense, unfortunately. The tight ends in this system, they run seam routes. He would be a
receiver. That's my thing. It's you use him how he should be used, as a wide receiver out wide, not as a tight end at all.
Sure, but trading a third-round pick for that guy specifically, and I love Kyle Pitts, but for a tight end / wide receiver hybrid who isn't really hasn't lived up to the bill.
Yes.
I would take a crack at drafting a tight end in the third round next year over trading for Kyle Pitts.
I would take a crack at drafting a wide receiver in the third round next year.
Absolutely. Second round, first round. At this point, at this rate, they're going to need to go draft one in the first round next year.
When is Jeremiah Smith draft eligible again, Keegan?
2 years.
Okay.
I would consider tanking just this year for him.
To trade the number one pick for whoever can tank. Forget it. I would acquire firsts.
Right.
Tank this year, you have Arch Manning, and then you trade that pick to the Saints.
If you took Jeremiah Smith right now and put him on the Patriots, they're a Super Bowl contender, and I believe that wholeheartedly.
Oh my God. The kid's 19.
Yeah, correct. And he's also built
6'2",
like prime Julio Jones.
215. I know. I can't not believe what he does on the football field. A 19-year-old putting the Patriots as Super Bowl contenders. I love it. He's Keagan Stiefel.
Hot take.
Yeah. I thought it would get better than, who was it? Oh, Keon White's the next J.J. Watt, but you went ahead and did it.
Myles Garrett, not J.J. Watt.
Yeah. Greatest defensive player of all time. He's Keagan Stiefel. I'm George Balekji. This is Foxborough Rush. Appreciate you guys making us a part of your day. Always bring the comments on YouTube for the mailbag or tweet at us. Use the hashtag #NessinChat. Bring it all to the combo. We'll see you guys on Friday with a new episode. Same time, same place.